Howdy folks, Taugrim here. In this fourth episode of The Art of Warfare, we look at the Tier 5 light tank, affectionately known as the Begleitpanzer. I learned from one of my German subs that means escort tank, but this is one of the strongest assassins in all of Tier 5 because you can fire an anti-tank missile and immediately follow it with autocannon fire. So the main gun is an autocannon that features an 8-shot clip that's capable of dealing over 1600 damage. The penetration is pretty solid at 141. You won't be able to penetrate some main battle tanks frontally, but you can penetrate pretty much anything from the rear or from the side. There is also a separate weapon, the missile launcher, which fires anti-tank guided missiles that have an alpha value of almost 600. And you can swap between the main gun and the missile launcher in just a few seconds, and this allows you to compact your burst. As far as crew, I recommend taking Sure Start on the second crew member. This causes or limits the maximum bloom you get from your gun, and that's really important for an autocannon since a lot of times you won't be fully aiming in. The tank basically has no armor worth speaking of, but it is pretty fast in a straight line. The gun oppression from the front is very good at -8 degrees, but it's very limited on the sides and rear. And notably, the turret traverse stock is around 22 degrees per second, which is pretty slow. So if you're trying to circle strafe a target, you actually need to start turning your turret before you've even started to pass that enemy vehicle. Let's take a look at the Begleitpanzer in a couple different battles. This is a Tier 6 Cold Strike. What you want to avoid early is brawling with other tanks and trading your HP. You want to try to conserve your HP, and this is really important for a tank that has an autocannon and the kind of weapons that the Begleitpanzer does. So what you want to do early on is find a good spot where you'll be able to fire on targets that are lit, but hopefully not get spotted yourself, or where you can back into hard cover. So with the swing fire, I fire the guided missile and then switch over to the autocannon and follow up the missile fire with an additional hit, and that deals over 800 damage. You can theoretically stack over 2200 damage, if you get 600 from the missile and then about another 1600 from the autocannon. Like this Begleitpanzer here was brawling in city too early. He was low at HP. I hit him a couple times, including tracking him, and it was easy for me to finish him off. And then because I'm spotted, I popped smokes, and that's really to help me conserve my hit points. And I also manually triggered a reload of the autocannon, given that it was half empty. With the autocannon, you can either just hold down the button to fire continuously, or fire like I am here, which is kind of in semi-automatic mode. I'm letting the aiming reticle close in a bit for more accurate shots, and then I've been hit once and I pop smokes to provide me with some cover during my reload. I swap over to the anti-tank guided missiles while my autocannon is loading, and you can see that the Fox is strafing and flanking the OF-40, so this gives me a safe time to go ahead and nail him with my missile, switch over to the autocannon, and then finish him off. Now, if I'm facing a low hit point tank opponent or a tank which has very weak armor, I may start with the autocannon and just save the missile for later. It really depends on the situation. Like in a case here where this M2 Bradley is at very low hit points, I just nail him with a shot from my autocannon. Here's a second battle. This is the Roughneck map, Tier 5, and again, I want to find a position which provides me with a good field of fire, but also hard cover in case I get spotted. And I'm going to be patient and wait until our AFVs in front of us have spotted some opponents. One nice thing about having a salvo size of 8 is that it gives you opportunities to kind of dial in your shots, especially against targets on the move. So, my first couple shots on that tank missed, but I was able to lead him out based on seeing the progress of the previous shots. And then I nailed that AFV. He did, pop his smokes, but it turns out that missile hit. And reading the map, it's really important as a Begleitpanzer driver to recognize when you have an opportunity to crack a flank and finish off wounded targets. So there's a Sheridan here in the middle of the refinery. He gets killed, but this opens up the middle lane, and we've pretty much pushed in pretty far up the 0 line. So I'm able to push right up into their base, and this gives me the first shot opportunity against this tank destroyer who's not even facing over at me. He rushes a shot, doesn't hit me, and then I finish him and another player. Now the 140 millimeters of penetration is pretty reliable, penetrating most AFVs, light tanks, and tank destroyers. There are some main battle tanks which you can also penetrate frontally, but otherwise you'll need to get behind them. And you can see in mid-flight with that anti-tank guided missile, I switched it over from the fast-moving XM800T target to the closer Begleitpanzer target, and then swapped over from the missile launcher to the gun to polish off the Begleitpanzer. is just really an amazing tank. You know, there are other tanks which I've already reviewed, such as the Sheridan and the Starship, where you can fire either regular shells like Heat and then also fire anti-tank guided missiles out of the same gun, but it's great with the Begleitpanzer that the missile launcher is a separate weapon from the gun. Again, there's the classic pairing of missile first and follow up with autocannon to finish, and then I'm using the remaining ammo in this salvo to wound that Fox. And again, leading out targets in this tank is much more forgiving than single shot tanks, since you can dial in after each shot. And you know, with the Begleitpanzer being so strong, you can put up games like this where, you know, I did an excess of 5,300 damage because I was able to keep up with the pace of the fighting based on the high speed of the Begleitpanzer. And between the autocannon and the missiles, it's very potent at finishing off tanks. It did take me a while to get used to the tank. I'd say, you know, I really struggled with it for about the first 10 battles, but then over the next 40, I dragged my win rate up to 70%. And I think the most impressive thing about the tank is the kill to death ratio. You know, I averaged almost 2 kills per match for a kill to death ratio of 4, which is, I believe, the highest that I've had in any tank. So this tank is great if you're careful and manage its brittleness. You know, don't brawl early, conserve HP, and then go wreck tanks late. In the next video, we're going to take a look at the M60A3. This is the Tier 5 American main battle tank. And if you've got other Tier 4s or 5s that you're interested in seeing, let me know, and if I've got it in my garage, I'll try to pull together some good footage for you. Hope you enjoyed the video. Take care.